The galaxy was dying. Not slowly. Not in some quiet way that allowed civilizations to prepare, but fast. Like a firestorm sweeping across countless worlds. Entire star systems were falling to an enemy no one truly understood. The Void Swarm, as it had come to be called, moved like a shadow with a mind of its own. Its fleets were enormous, but not in the way most species measured strength. They were precise, relentless, and seemingly without fear or hesitation. Planets that had stood for thousands of years were now deserts of ash and ruin. In the Galactic Council, representatives from hundreds of worlds sat around a massive circular chamber. Each of them was desperate, their faces etched with worry. They had convened more times than anyone could count, but no consensus had ever been reached. Today, the chamber was silent, except for the soft hum of energy fields and the occasional whisper of a translator. The galaxy was on the edge, and everyone knew it. Admiral Rill, a member of the insectoid species called the Kirel, slammed his clawed hand on the table. "We cannot continue like this," he shouted, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Every day we argue is another world lost. Do we wait until nothing remains?" A murmured agreement rippled across the room. The representatives had grown tired of words. They wanted action. Something, anything, that could stop the Void Swarm. A soft voice rose from the human delegation. It belonged to Ambassador Lyra Tane, a human woman whose calm presence often contrasted the chaos around her. "We can act," she said gently. "Not with fleets that tire or with endless debate, but in a way that no one expects. Humans," Admiral Rill hissed, "you barely have the fleets to defend your own system. How can you speak of action against the swarm?" Lyra smiled faintly. "Because humans think differently. When others see a wall, we look for a door. When others see failure, we see opportunity. We can offer you something new. A solution that does not rely on the strength of numbers alone." Skepticism filled the chamber. Humans were young. They had not fought the galaxy's great wars. They were considered clever, yes, even adaptable, but they were not known for military might. And yet, the urgency of the situation forced even the most stubborn leaders to listen. Lyra stepped forward and projected an image into the center of the chamber. A single ship appeared, sleek and strong, glimmering with the energy of advanced human engineering. Its name was the Perseverance. "This ship," Lyra continued, "is not just a vessel. It is a symbol of what humans do best: adapt, overcome, and endure. With a skilled crew, it can infiltrate enemy territory and strike at the heart of the Void Swarm. One ship may not seem like much, but it is designed for situations where no one else can succeed." The room erupted in chatter. Representatives leaned forward, whispering, arguing, shaking their heads. "One ship against the swarm?" Someone scoffed. "It is suicide." "Perhaps," Lyra admitted. "But sometimes, the impossible is the only option left. Every fleet has fallen. Every planet has suffered. If we wait for the perfect army, there will be nothing left to save. We must act now, even if the odds seem against us." Admiral Rill narrowed his eyes. "And you claim that one ship can change the course of the war?" "Yes," Lyra said simply, "because humans fight differently. Where the swarm relies on numbers, we rely on creativity. Where they follow orders, we adapt. And where they expect defeat, we find victory." For a moment, the room fell silent again. Even the skeptics paused. The truth was clear. The galaxy had no other options. Every strategy had failed. Every fleet had been beaten. And now, the hope of survival rested on a single human warship. Across the chamber, the eyes of the Galactic Council turned toward the humans, searching for more. Lyra nodded and signaled for the holographic display to expand. Images of the Perseverance's crew appeared. Humans working together, engineers adjusting systems, pilots training in simulations, scientists analyzing data, all moving with precise purpose. They are not soldiers in the traditional sense, Lyra explained. They are thinkers, problem solvers, and doers. They work as one, anticipate threats, and turn disadvantages into advantages. The Perseverance is their tool. And their minds are sharper than any weapon in this galaxy. A ripple of intrigue passed through the chamber. For the first time in weeks, some began to hope. Admiral Rill leaned back in his chair. It is audacious. Yes, Lyra replied. But audacity may be the only path left. The Perseverance will enter the heart of the swarm, disrupt their command, and show the galaxy that there is a way to fight back. And if it succeeds, other fleets can follow, inspired by what humans can do. There was a pause. Then, slowly, one by one, representatives began to nod. Not all were convinced, but desperation breeds courage. The decision was made. Humans would send the Perseverance. The galaxy would watch. And for the first time, there was a glimmer of hope. The story then shifted to the Perseverance itself. The ship was unlike anything most species had ever seen. Sleek lines allowed it to slip through space like a predator hunting silently. Its hull was reinforced with adaptive armor, capable of shifting to absorb energy attacks. Its engines could adjust to sudden bursts of speed, allowing it to dodge attacks that would have destroyed conventional ships. Inside, the crew prepared for the journey ahead. Captain Alara Voss stood at the bridge, her eyes scanning the holographic display of the swarm's known locations. She was calm, focused, and determined. Every member of her crew worked with quiet intensity, checking systems, running simulations, and discussing tactics. "This is it," she said softly, addressing her crew. "The galaxy is counting on us. Not because we are the biggest or the strongest, but because we can think differently. Stay sharp. Trust each other. And remember, we are humans. We adapt, we endure, and we will not fail." Her words carried weight. The crew felt it deep in their bones. They knew the mission would be dangerous. They knew that others had fallen before them. But they also knew that they were humans, and humans had a way of surviving when all hope seemed lost. As the Perseverance powered up its engines, the stars stretched into lines of light. The ship moved through space with precision, silent but deadly. Every sensor was active, every system online, every human ready. They were heading into the heart of the enemy, and the galaxy held its breath. From a distance, alien fleets watched in disbelief as a single human ship vanished into the darkness. Some doubted it could succeed. Some feared it might be destroyed instantly. But all of them knew one thing. The galaxy had chosen a new path. And that path began with a single ship and a crew who refused to accept defeat. The first part of the journey would test every skill they had. The Perseverance would face dangers no other fleet had survived. But even in the face of overwhelming odds, humans had a trait no enemy could understand fully: ingenuity. And as the ship disappeared into the void, one thought echoed across the galaxy. Perhaps humans were the last hope, and maybe, just maybe, hope was enough. The Perseverance moved through space with quiet determination. Stars streaked past like long silver threads as the ship accelerated toward the heart of the void swarm. Inside, the crew worked with steady focus, knowing that even the smallest mistake could be fatal. The air in the control room was tense, but not with fear. There was energy, a sharp awareness that every second mattered. Captain Alara Voss stood at the front of the bridge, her eyes scanning the holographic map of the swarm's movements. Red blips marked enemy fleets, some small, some massive. Many were clustered around the swarm's outer territories, patrolling and waiting. But in the center, closer to the core of enemy space, the numbers grew frightening. Hundreds of vessels moved in patterns too fast for most species to track. Yet Ilara's expression remained calm. "Status report," she said quietly. Lieutenant Kieran, the ship's tactical officer, leaned over his console. "Sensors detect multiple swarm patrols ahead. They are scanning for intruders. Probability of detection is high if we maintain a direct course." Ilara nodded. "Then, we don't maintain a direct course." She paused, letting the words sink in. "We adapt. Plot a route through the gaps in their formations. Use the asteroids and debris fields for cover. Move like a shadow." The crew's eyes lit up with understanding. This was what humans did best. See the path others could not. Find openings where others saw walls. While the swarm relied on numbers and predictable tactics, humans relied on ingenuity, imagination, and courage. The ship shifted course, moving through a dense asteroid field on the edge of enemy territory. Sensors flared as the ship narrowly avoided massive chunks of rock, moving with careful precision. It was risky, but hiding within the asteroids made detection far less likely. Every move was calculated, yet fluid, relying on both human intuition and technology. "Captain," Kiera, the navigator, called out. "We are approaching the first patrol group. They are scanning this sector, likely to spot us if we make any noise." Ilara studied the map, her eyes scanning the patrols. Each was a cluster of ships moving in a pattern, circling like predators. She smiled faintly. "Then we become part of the pattern. Use the asteroids as shields. Activate the stealth protocols. Let them think they are alone while we pass through." The Perseverance shifted again, aligning itself perfectly with the shadows of massive rocks. Its engines hummed quietly as the ship's adaptive armor reflected the faint light, blending it with the dark void. On the bridge, the crew held their breath. Time slowed, and for a moment, it felt like the universe itself was watching. Then, a patrol ship detected the movement. Red lights flashed on the tactical screen. The swarm had noticed them. "Missiles incoming," Kieran shouted. Ilara didn't flinch. "Divert energy to shields, fire countermeasures." Explosions rippled in space, but the Perseverance moved faster than the sensors could track. Missiles detonated harmlessly against the adaptive shields, sending debris scattering. Humans moved with precision, predicting the attacks before they happened, avoiding damage while keeping a steady course. The patrol ships were momentarily confused. They fired repeatedly, but each salvo missed. The Perseverance used the asteroids as a shield, ducking and weaving through the field with almost impossible agility. The crew worked as one, each action reinforcing the others. It was a dance of survival, a human rhythm against an enemy that relied on sheer force. Finally, after what seemed like hours but was only minutes, the patrols lost track of the Perseverance. The ship slipped through the asteroid field and emerged into open space on the far side. The crew exhaled in relief. But there was no time to linger. "Status?" Ilara asked. "Minor damage to external hull," Kieran replied. "Nothing critical. All systems functional. We passed undetected." Ilara nodded. "Good. Begin repairs, but keep shields at maximum. We are not safe yet." The next stage of the mission was even more dangerous. The Perseverance had to pass through the outer swarm lines, a region filled with massive fleets and automated defense drones. Each move could reveal their presence. If they were caught, there would be no hope of escape. Ilara gathered her crew. "Listen closely. The swarm thinks in numbers. They overwhelm and destroy anything they see. We do not fight like them. We use our minds, our flexibility, and our speed. Stick to the plan. Watch each other's backs. Trust yourselves, and trust each other. This is where humans shine." The crew nodded, feeling a mixture of tension and determination. They had trained for this, but nothing could fully prepare them for the reality of facing the swarm directly. As the Perseverance approached the outer lines, the first signs of the enemy appeared. Massive ships moved in coordinated patterns, scanning space with powerful sensors. Drones patrolled the gaps, programmed to destroy anything unusual. It was a gauntlet that no ordinary fleet could survive. Ilara studied the formations. "We go through the gaps," she said. "Not where it is clear, but where they expect us not to go. Be unpredictable." The ship moved like water, slipping between patrols, hiding behind floating debris, and using sudden bursts of speed to evade detection. The crew's coordination was flawless. Engineers adjusted systems in real time, pilots shifted positions smoothly, and tactical officers predicted enemy moves. Every action was part of a greater pattern, a strategy designed by humans for humans. Despite the danger, the crew felt a strange sense of exhilaration. They were small against the vastness of the swarm, but they were alive, moving forward, making a difference. For the first time, they saw that being human was their greatest strength. Suddenly, an enormous swarm battleship appeared in their path. It was unlike any other ship they had seen, massive and heavily armed, a floating fortress of destruction. Sensors detected multiple weapon locks. "Prepare for engagement," Kieran said, urgency in his voice. Ilara shook her head. "No. We do not engage. We outsmart. Initiate cloaking sequence and take the side channels. We move where they cannot predict." The ship shuddered as the cloaking device activated. Its hull shimmered, blending with the dark space around it. The massive swarm battleship scanned in confusion, its weapons firing blindly. Missiles streaked past the Perseverance, detonating harmlessly against nearby asteroids. The humans moved like shadows, slipping past what seemed impossible. "Course set," Kiera said. "We can make it through the line if we maintain this speed." Ilara nodded, a small smile on her face. "Then let's make history." The Perseverance darted forward, moving through narrow channels, twisting and turning, avoiding detection with incredible precision. Every system worked together. Every human decision mattered. It was a display of creativity and courage, unmatched in the galaxy. Finally, they passed the outer lines. The enemy ships continued to patrol, unaware of the humans that had slipped through. For the first time, the crew could breathe freely, knowing they had survived what most would have called impossible. Ilara turned to her crew. "We are in the heart of enemy territory. The real challenge begins now. They may not know we are here yet, but we will make them notice. And when they do, we will be ready." Ilara, 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 Ilara. The bridge was quiet for a moment. The crew looked at each other, aware of the danger ahead, but also proud of what they had accomplished. One ship, one crew, moving through impossible odds. The galaxy would soon see what humans could do. As the Perseverance continued deeper into the swarm, the stars ahead seemed darker, the void more menacing. But the humans aboard felt a spark of hope. They were small, but clever. They were few, but determined. They were humans, and the universe was about to learn that even a single human warship could change the fate of an entire galaxy. The Perseverance moved deeper into the heart of the void swarm. The farther it went, the darker space seemed to become. Stars twinkled faintly, but the light was drowned out by the vast emptiness and the looming presence of countless enemy ships. The sensors aboard the human warship were constantly active, scanning for movement, measuring distances, and analyzing enemy behavior. Every crew member knew that a single mistake could mean destruction not just for them, but for the hope of the galaxy. Captain Ilara Voss stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the display. She did not flinch at the red blips representing enemy ships. Instead, she studied their formations, patterns, and spacing. "They are organized," she said quietly, "but predictable. Every pattern has a flaw, if you look closely enough. Lieutenant Kieran, the tactical officer, leaned over his console. They have deployed drone swarms ahead. Probability of detection is high. They are scanning every route. Alara nodded. Good. Then we will make them see what they are not expecting. Activate decoy drones and signal interference. Let them focus on shadows while we move through the gaps. The crew moved with coordinated precision. Engineers adjusted systems to minimize energy signatures, while pilots used the smallest bursts of speed to adjust the ship's trajectory. Every action was calculated, yet flexible. Humans thrived in situations like this, where the unexpected was the only constant. The first wave of drones approached. Small, fast, and programmed to explode on impact. They seemed almost harmless, but the numbers were overwhelming. Kieran controlled the ship's weapons, firing in precise bursts to disable the drones without revealing the Perseverance's exact location. Keep moving, Alara ordered. We are not here to fight. We are here to survive and strike where it matters. The drones exploded around the ship, but the Perseverance slipped through, using debris and the shadows of larger enemy vessels as cover. The crew worked as a single unit, communicating silently through gestures and heads-up displays. It was a dance of precision, and for humans, this was their natural rhythm. Finally, the Perseverance reached the first major fleet cluster. Hundreds of Void Swarm ships moved in synchronized formations, scanning and communicating with one another. Most species would have frozen in fear, but the humans saw opportunity. Alara studied the formations. They are confident, she said, but overconfident. That will be their weakness. She turned to Kieran. Target the command ship at the center. Use the asteroid field to mask our approach. Once we are in range, disable their communication arrays. If we cut their coordination, the swarm will falter. Kieran's fingers danced over the controls. Course plotted. All systems ready. We can reach the command ship in 5 minutes. The Perseverance shifted through the field of asteroids, moving like a shadow. Enemy ships scanned the area, but found nothing. The human crew had learned to think in ways the swarm could not anticipate. They moved unpredictably, used the environment as a tool, and relied on creative solutions instead of brute force. As they approached the central command ship, Kieran prepared the ship's specialized equipment. Disabling beam ready, he said. It will temporarily shut down their communication and navigation systems if it hits the right points. Alara nodded. Do it. The beam shot forward, striking the command ship's critical systems. Immediately, the surrounding fleet began to falter. Communication between ships dropped, formations broke apart, and drones lost coordination. The swarm, which relied on unity and numbers, was suddenly confused. Look at that, Alara whispered, a hint of pride in her voice. They are not invincible. They are organized. Yes, but they cannot adapt like we can. Kieran smiled. It is beautiful to watch. They are panicking, but they don't know why. The Perseverance did not linger. While the swarm scrambled to restore order, the human ship moved deeper into enemy space, slipping past damaged and disoriented vessels. Every moment was a lesson in human ingenuity and resilience. The swarm had power, numbers, and speed. But humans had strategy, creativity, and courage. Suddenly, the sensors detected a massive fleet approaching from another direction. It was a trap. The swarm had realized something was wrong and was sending reinforcements to intercept. Alara, Kieran said urgently, they've set a blockade. If we continue, we risk being surrounded. Alara's eyes narrowed. Then we don't continue straight. We create our own path, engage evasive maneuvers, and deploy false signals to mislead them. The Perseverance moved with incredible speed, weaving between massive ships and sending out holographic decoys. The swarm fired blindly, striking at illusions rather than the real ship. Each maneuver was a calculated risk, but humans thrived in risk. Where others would panic, they adapted. For hours, the Perseverance navigated through the enemy fleet, striking critical points, confusing command structures, and avoiding destruction. The swarm had never faced an enemy like this, a small, intelligent, and fearless force that moved unpredictably. Finally, the ship reached a quieter sector, giving the crew a brief moment to breathe. The damage was minimal, but the experience had shown the crew the stakes and the power of their own abilities. Elara addressed her team. "This is why we exist. We are small. Yes, but we think in ways they cannot. Each success, no matter how small, shows the galaxy that humans are more than they appear. This is just the beginning. The heart of the swarm awaits, and we will face it head-on." The crew nodded, feeling a mixture of pride and anticipation. They were humans, and their strength was not in numbers or brute force. It was in courage, creativity, and the ability to adapt. As the Perseverance continued toward the core of the swarm, reports began arriving from across the galaxy. Alien fleets that had been on the defensive began to see hope. The actions of a single human ship had disrupted the enemy's plans, proving that victory was possible. The galaxy, which had been paralyzed by fear, now had a symbol of hope. Elara watched the stars ahead. Each red blip of the swarm represented a danger, but also an opportunity. "They underestimate us," she said softly, "and that is the advantage we have. They expect the impossible to fail. But humans, we thrive in the impossible." The crew prepared for the next stage. Ahead lay the central command nodes, the places where the swarm coordinated its fleets. Destroying them would not be easy, and the risk was enormous. But humans had already proven that strategy, courage, and ingenuity could overcome even overwhelming odds. The Perseverance moved forward, silent but deadly. Each crew member understood the importance of what they were doing. They were not just fighting for themselves, they were fighting for the entire galaxy. Every decision, every maneuver, and every action could change the course of the war. As they approached the central area, alarms suddenly blared. Sensors detected massive energy surges from the swarm's core systems. Ships began moving in formation, faster and more aggressively. The enemy had realized something was wrong. "Elara," Kieran shouted, "they've spotted us. Multiple fleets are converging on our position." Elara's eyes narrowed. "Then we fight smart, not hard. Initiate the next phase. We take out the core communication node. If we succeed, their entire network will collapse." The crew worked in perfect coordination, adjusting shields, redirecting power to critical systems, and preparing weapons. The Perseverance moved like a living organism, every part responding to threats with intelligence and precision. The human warship approached the central node. Energy weapons flared around it. Defenses were tight, and enemy ships closed in from all directions. It was a dangerous situation, more dangerous than anything the crew had faced before. But fear did not guide them. Strategy did. Courage did. Human ingenuity did. With careful calculations and precise timing, the Perseverance struck. The central node was hit with an electromagnetic pulse, designed to disable systems without causing destruction. Immediately, the swarm's fleets faltered. Communications went offline. Drones became erratic. Ships collided with one another in confusion. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The swarm, which had seemed unstoppable, was now disorganized, vulnerable, and reactive. A single human warship had turned the tide in the heart of enemy space. Elara smiled faintly, looking at her crew. "This is what humans do. We adapt, we endure, and we fight when others would give up. We are small, but we are clever, and cleverness can overcome anything." The crew of the Perseverance felt a surge of pride. They had survived impossible odds, outsmarted an overwhelming enemy, and changed the course of a war that threatened the galaxy. The heart of the swarm had been weakened, and hope was beginning to spread among the stars. For the first time, they allowed themselves a moment to celebrate quietly. Humans were not the largest, strongest, or most numerous species, but they had proven that intelligence, courage, and determination could make them a force to be reckoned with. The Perseverance moved forward, deeper into the enemy territory, ready to continue its mission. The galaxy watched, hope renewed, and for the first time, it became clear that humanity was not just a participant in the war, they were a turning point. And the turning point had only just begun. The galaxy had begun to notice. Across countless worlds, in fleets that had once felt powerless, hope was stirring. Reports of a single human warship disrupting the Void Swarm reached species who had long feared defeat. What once seemed impossible was now possible. And at the heart of this renewed hope was the Perseverance. Captain Alara Voss sat on the bridge, watching a holographic display of enemy movements. The swarm had recovered slightly from the initial shock of the central node disruption. But their formations were still uneven, their fleets slower to react, and their drones erratic. The humans had given the galaxy a window, a brief but crucial chance to strike back. "Captain," Kieran said, voice steady but intense. "Our sensors are picking up multiple fleets converging on us. They have adapted slightly, but not fully. They are still reacting, not anticipating. We have a chance to push further." Alara nodded. "Good. This is exactly where we shine. Other species wait for reinforcements or hesitate in fear. We act. Every movement we make forces them to respond, to reveal weaknesses. Prepare the ship for the next phase." The crew moved with practiced efficiency. Engineers rerouted energy, adjusting shields and propulsion. Pilots ran simulations of enemy behavior and trajectories. Every system was readied for a battle that would test not just strength, but ingenuity. Humans understood that the battlefield was not just space. It was thought, planning, and adaptation. From the command deck, Alara addressed her team. "We are not here to fight blindly. The swarm relies on numbers. We rely on thinking, strategy, and courage. Stay focused. Watch each other's backs. Remember, we are human. Adaptation is our advantage. Use it." As the Perseverance moved deeper, the swarm's central fleets became more aggressive. Massive ships appeared, bristling with weapons, and patrols swarmed in patterns designed to trap the human vessel. Drones zipped around like angry insects, scanning for anomalies. Most species would have faltered in fear at the sheer scale, but humans thrived in challenges that seemed impossible. Alara, "Kiera," the navigator, called out. "They're trying to funnel us into a dead zone. If we go straight, we are trapped." Alara studied the map for a moment, her mind racing through countless calculations. "Then we do not go straight. We create our own path. Use the debris and energy fields to hide our movement. Split their focus with decoys. Confuse them. We turn their strength into weakness." The Perseverance shifted course, moving through a dense field of energy anomalies. Sparks of plasma danced across the void, and massive rocks drifted between ships. The swarm's sensors were thrown off, reacting to illusions and decoys instead of the real ship. Humans had learned to exploit not just the environment, but the enemy's expectations. Suddenly, a massive swarm battleship emerged from the shadows, firing a barrage of energy beams directly at the Perseverance. The ship shuddered, but shields held firm. Kieran quickly calculated angles and fired precision countermeasures, disrupting the enemy weapon systems temporarily. "They didn't expect us to move this way," Alara said calmly. "Good. Keep them off balance." The Perseverance weaved between enemy attacks, each maneuver deliberate. Pilots adjusted in real time. Engineers compensated for energy fluctuations, and tactical officers directed precise strikes at weak points in enemy formations. Each human action forced the swarm to react, slowing them down and creating openings for other maneuvers. As they progressed, Elara noticed a cluster of critical nodes ahead. These were smaller communication hubs that coordinated fleets on the outskirts of the swarm's central territory. If they were disabled, the swarm's coordination would crumble even further. "Prepare a strike team," Elara ordered. "We take out those nodes. It won't destroy them completely, but it will give the galaxy more breathing room. And every node we disable teaches them that humans cannot be predicted." The crew quickly set up specialized weapons, designed to disable without destroying, leaving the swarm alive but chaotic. The Perseverance moved forward, dodging enemy fire and using shadows, debris, and decoys to mask its approach. Kieran spoke over the comms. "Node targets locked. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The beams struck simultaneously. Energy pulses disrupted the node's communications, and the surrounding fleets immediately faltered. Ships collided or stopped unexpectedly, and drones went haywire. The swarm, which had relied on coordination and unity, was now reacting, not acting. Elara allowed herself a faint smile. This is what humans do. We turn the enemy's strengths into weaknesses. One ship, one crew, making a difference where billions could not. But the victory was short-lived. Sensors picked up an enormous force, moving rapidly toward their position. The swarm had begun to regroup, sending a massive fleet directly toward the Perseverance. This was the real test. Could a single human ship survive against overwhelming odds? "Elara," Kiera said, tension in her voice. "They've sent reinforcements. We will be surrounded if we don't act immediately." Ilara's mind raced. "Then, we do not wait. We create chaos. Draw their attention to one sector while we move through another. Use everything we have. Prepare the ship for maximum maneuverability. And remember, humans are unpredictable." The Perseverance twisted and turned, using rapid bursts of speed to evade enemy fire. Energy shields flared as weapons struck, but failed to breach the hull. Decoy drones and holographic projections distracted the enemy, creating the illusion of multiple ships where there was only one. Every maneuver forced the swarm to split its focus, weakening their attack. Hours passed like minutes as the ship danced through the heart of enemy space. Each action required complete trust between crew members, precise timing, and rapid adaptation. Humans thrived where others might have failed, thinking creatively in a situation that seemed hopeless. Finally, they reached a temporary safe zone, a pocket of space where the swarm's attention was divided. The crew exhaled, exhausted, but exhilarated. They had survived waves of attacks, disrupted critical communications, and remained undetected enough to continue their mission. Elara addressed her team. "We have done what no one thought possible. But this is only the beginning. The heart of the swarm is still ahead. Every success we achieve inspires the galaxy. And every failure we avoid proves that humans are different. We are clever, adaptable, and fearless. Remember that." As we move forward, the Perseverance's sensors began picking up signals from distant fleets across the galaxy. Alien species were taking note of their tactics, observing how humans moved, and learning to adapt themselves. The impact of one ship had rippled far beyond the immediate battlefield. In a quiet moment on the bridge, Elara looked at the stars ahead. The galaxy was vast, and the void swarm was relentless, but humans had shown a spark, a light in the darkness. One ship, one crew, and a single idea had reminded the galaxy that hope was not gone. "Humans have a way of surviving," she whispered to herself. "Even when the odds are impossible, we endure. And endurance can change the course of the war." As the Perseverance prepared to push deeper, The crew adjusted weapons, repaired minor damage, and checked systems. Every human aboard understood the stakes. They were small against the swarm, but they were clever, courageous, and united. And that made them dangerous in ways the enemy could not understand. The journey through the heart of enemy territory continued, each step more daring than the last. The Perseverance moved like a shadow, striking where the enemy was weakest, disrupting their formations, and inspiring the galaxy with proof that humans could make a difference. The swarm would soon learn that numbers alone did not guarantee victory. Strategy, intelligence, and courage, the human way, were equally powerful. And the galaxy was watching, learning, and beginning to believe that one human warship could indeed turn the tide of war. The heart of the Void Swarm lay ahead, a massive cluster of ships, energy fields, and machinery that seemed to stretch endlessly. This was the core of their power, the command center from which fleets were coordinated and planets conquered. Most species would have fled at the sight, overwhelmed by the sheer scale and strength. But the Perseverance approached with calm determination. Humans did not retreat. Humans adapted. Humans endured. Captain Ilara Voss stood at the front of the bridge, her eyes scanning every detail on the holographic displays. "This is it," she said, softly. "The heart of the swarm. One ship against countless enemies. But we are not just a ship. We are humans. And humans thrive in impossible situations." Lieutenant Kieran, tactical officer, adjusted the targeting system. "They have layered defenses, energy shields, automated drones, fleet patrols. Probability of survival is low if we follow conventional tactics." Ilara smiled faintly. "Then we do not follow conventional tactics. Humans do not fight like others. We adapt. We innovate. We turn the impossible into advantage. Prepare the ship for maximum flexibility. Every system, every crew member, every plan must work as one." The crew moved quickly, checking weapons, shields, propulsion, and sensors. Engineers rerouted energy to enhance maneuverability. Scientists prepared interference pulses to confuse enemy systems, and pilots simulated evasive maneuvers in real time. The Perseverance was small against the massive core. But humans had something far more dangerous than size: intelligence and courage. As they approached, the swarm reacted. Massive vessels moved to intercept, forming concentric rings around the core. Drones swarmed outward, scanning for intruders. Energy beams fired continuously, creating a deadly web of destruction. But the Perseverance did not panic. Instead, it moved like water, slipping through gaps in formations, using shadows, debris, and decoys to avoid detection. "Ilara," Kiera said, her voice tense. "The outer defenses are closing. We will be surrounded if we continue." Ilara's eyes narrowed. "Then we create our own path. Engage decoys and deploy false energy signatures. Make them chase ghosts while we move where they least expect." The human ship darted forward, leaving holographic decoys behind. Energy pulses from the swarm struck the decoys, detonating harmlessly while the real ship advanced. Each move was precise, each decision deliberate. Humans had trained for this. But training could only go so far. This was improvisation, instinct, and intellect, working together. Hours passed as the Perseverance maneuvered deeper into the core. Enemy forces became more aggressive, but also more predictable. The swarm expected humans to panic, to retreat, to follow patterns. But humans did not follow patterns. Humans created them. Finally, they reached the central command node, the heart of the swarm's network. It was a massive, glowing structure, surrounded by fleets and energy shields. Its destruction would destabilize the entire swarm, crippling communication, coordination, and fleet operations. This was the moment the galaxy had been waiting for. "Elara," Kieran said. "This is it. If we succeed, the swarm will collapse. If we fail," Elara shook her head, "we will not fail. Humans do not accept impossible as final. Prepare the attack. Timing and precision are everything. Fire only. When every system is aligned." The crew worked quickly. Scientists calibrated the pulse disruptor, engineers adjusted power flows, and tactical officers analyzed the shield's patterns. Every crew member was focused, every action synchronized. Humans thrived under pressure, and pressure was all around them. "Now," Elara commanded. The Perseverance unleashed a concentrated pulse directly at the core node. Energy flared, shields shimmered, and for a moment, it seemed the attack had failed. Then, the structure wavered, sparks flying across its surface. Drones and ships connected to the node went offline, drifting in confusion. Communication across the swarm faltered, and fleets collided or lost formation. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The once unstoppable swarm was in disarray. Ships fired at each other by mistake. Automated drones malfunctioned. Enemy leaders struggled to regain control. The Perseverance had done what billions of soldiers could not: destabilize the core of the Void Swarm. "Status report," Elara demanded. Kieran's voice was steady, but there was excitement beneath it. "Core node disrupted. Enemy fleet coordination is collapsing. We have created a ripple of confusion across all levels of their command." Elara smiled faintly. "This is what humans do. Small, clever, and fearless. One ship can inspire hope, create chaos, and turn the tide of war." The crew did not celebrate yet. There was still danger. Energy shields around the core began to reactivate, and reinforcements from surrounding space were approaching. But the initial blow had given humans an advantage. The swarm could no longer respond as a single entity. They were fractured, reactive, and vulnerable. "Elara," Kiera said. "They are regrouping. Multiple fleets are converging on our position. We may be surrounded." Elara's eyes gleamed. "Then we do what humans do best: adapt, overcome, endure. Prepare evasive maneuvers, reinforce shields, and continue disabling the surrounding nodes. We turn every attack against them." The Perseverance moved like lightning, slipping through enemy lines while firing precision strikes at remaining control hubs. Drones exploded harmlessly against decoys, energy beams missed their target, and ships collided in confusion. Every move was a masterclass in human ingenuity. Hours later, the crew had disabled all nearby command nodes, leaving the swarm's central fleets fractured and disorganized. Reports from the galaxy began arriving. Alien fleets were advancing, inspired by the humans' success. Worlds that had prepared for defeat now prepared for victory. Elara allowed herself a moment to speak to the crew. "Look at what we have done. The galaxy feared the impossible, but humans have made it possible. We did not need to be the largest or the strongest. We needed to be clever, courageous, and determined. Every move we made changed the course of the war." The crew nodded, exhausted but proud. They had survived impossible odds, faced the enemy at its core, and delivered a decisive blow. Humans had proven that intelligence, courage, and unity could overcome even the greatest threat. Beyond the ship, the galaxy began to respond. Fleets that had once waited in fear now coordinated attacks based on the humans' tactics. The swarm, which had relied on coordination and fear, was now fractured and vulnerable. The galaxy, inspired by the courage of a single human warship, was rising. Elara looked at the stars, feeling a sense of calm determination. "This is only the beginning," she said softly. "The swarm may regroup, but they now know that humans cannot be predicted. Humans endure, humans adapt, and humans fight when others would surrender. That is why we will continue, and that is why the galaxy will survive." The Perseverance, small but mighty, moved forward through the remnants of the disrupted fleet. Every crew member felt the weight of their achievement. They had shown the galaxy that size, numbers, and raw power were not everything. Intelligence, strategy, and courage were forces that could shape entire civilizations. For the first time, the galaxy had hope. And that hope came from humanity, a species that refused to accept defeat, that thrived under impossible odds, and that showed what one small ship and its crew could achieve. As the Perseverance disappeared deeper into the void, the swarm's forces continued to falter. Alien fleets advanced, and civilizations began to rebuild. The war was not yet over, but the tide had turned. Humanity had arrived not with overwhelming numbers or weapons of mass destruction, but with courage, creativity, and the unshakable belief that even the smallest force could change the course of the galaxy. Captain Ilara Voss stood quietly, looking at the stars. Humans are not the strongest, but we are relentless. We are not the largest, but we endure. And that, more than anything, will always make us a force to be reckoned with. And so, the galaxy witnessed the rise of humanity. One ship, one crew, and the courage to face the impossible had changed the fate of countless worlds. The Perseverance moved onward, ready for whatever challenges remained, carrying the spirit of humanity across the stars, undaunted, unyielding, and unforgettable.